In earlier parts of this workflow presentation, we showed how to use Photomatix to create the merged files, and we did that both manually and in batch mode using those two options. In this section we're going to look at tone mapping, but it's not enabled here because you've got to have something open on the right hand side in order to tone map it. So what I'll do here is File, and I'm going to open the place where I saved my HDR files, and I'm going to take this last one as an example, and we'll work through with this. This was a merged HDR file containing the raw files for exposure number 9005, 6 and 7. So let's open it. It's a building near a golf course and near the seaside, and we're going to now tone map this in a moment. But even looking at it at this stage, you can see that, for example, here on the screen there's evidence of leaves of ferns ghosting in because they weren't static for the 3 exposures. You can see another one here across the golfer's body, and in fact if we view it a wee bit more, let's zoom in a little bit, some of these figures, the golfers, are a bit fuzzy. Again, it's ghosting in the merged image, and in a subsequent part of this demo I'll show a technique I use to get rid of that. So let's bring this view back in again. Or view, zoom out. View, zoom out. Okay, so that's where we started. We'll now take the tone mapping button and Photomatix will open this screen here. Along the left hand side are your various panels for adjustments. Now, it's not possible to go through all the individual settings. The PDF, which you can download from Photomatix, will go at it in more detail. But the whole concept here is to pick a method, and there's only 2. You can either have tone compressor or details enhancer. I always use details enhancer, never the second one. I don't use that exposure fusion option either. So it's always tone mapping to details enhancer. And of course the whole idea here is that you move your sliders around to have a look at how the image might change until you're satisfied that it, okay, that's too saturated and so forth. Another thing that you can do once you've got a set of slider settings that you like is you can often save them in what's called a preset. Now, what I normally do is drop down this list, and there are some inbuilt presets, one called Smooth Skies, Painter. Let's just run through them. Smooth Skies would look like that, and watch on the right hand side how it affects the histogram. In moving these sliders along the left hand side, I'm forever looking at the histogram to try and get it as close to a bell shape as I can. The painterly one might look like this, which I don't like. I don't like those too dark skies. But again, you're getting a reasonably good bell shape here. And you have other options for lighting effects to make it look more surreal or plasticky or more natural. Grunge, definitely don't like that. And see the effect of the histogram on the right hand side. Wouldn't bother with black and white. Now, below the line, I've got a number of presets I use. Gary 2, Gary 3, Trey and Dave. This one here, Trey Radcliffe, is one of the acknowledged experts on HDR processing, and there are many useful web articles that I've found on the web. In fact, I've given the link into stuckincustoms.com on an earlier part of this presentation. And a lot of the time I would use his default. I click on that setting. It's bringing back here his preferred settings. So he recommends a strength of 100 and so forth. And again, as you float over these, it should tell you what each of them does. Where it tells you is in the bottom left hand corner down here. So detail contrast controls the amount of contrast applied to detail in the image. Move the slider to the right to increase the contrast. Give a sharper look to the image. It also has a darkening effect to it. You can read the hints. The lighting adjustment is very important. Controls the overall look. Makes it look either more natural or more plasticky and surreal looking. So a lot of the time I would use these settings of strength 100, color saturation 47, luminosity 5.6, detail contrast 1.9, a measure of 3 on lighting adjustments, but not using the lighting effects mode. That's unchecked. There's another section here in the middle, show more options, and again a part of that preset, which I call Trey Radcliffe, which he recommends. He says leave the smooth highlighting slider at 0, white point 1.367, black point 0.02, gamma 1. It controls the mid-tones and the brightening or darkening of the image in total. So he says leave the defaults as 1. And temperature 0. And then there's more advanced options. Micro smoothing, which is quite important. He says leave it at 1.5. Saturation highlight 0, saturation shadow 0, and the smoothness of shadow 0 and shadow clipping 0. So those are his defaults. And on the right hand side, I'm pretty sure that's a fairly good bell-shape balance to the tones in it. Now you can also use presets down here at the bottom of the screen, which I rarely ever do, but let's just pick a different another one I often use is Gary, my own one. It's not quite the same, but sometimes it can have a better look on the main image itself. It depends very much on each individual merged HDR file. So Gary 3 is just about the same. Now in this case I'm going to pick Trey Radcliffe, but I often use Gary 3 myself, and it would have settings of strength of 80, not 100, color saturation 45, not 47 as in the other preset. And in this I would have luminosity 4, detail contrast 2.2, lighting adjustments of 6 to make it just that more realistic. And the difference in my settings compared with the Trey Radcliffe settings is that it's not quite a bell shape. In my settings, again, smooth highlight 0, white point 0.595, black point 0.02, gamma of 1, temperature 0, and in the advanced settings micro smoothing 1.6, and the rest of them I leave as 0. So these are two of the main settings I would use. If you come up with some combination you like for future use, you can save settings, give it a name, it'll appear in the list in future instances. So in this case I think the best one I found was the Trey Radcliffe settings. So I'm ready to process with that. and I click process. And it's beginning to tone map using the details enhancer with the settings that I established. And when that's done, we're going to save the output it creates as a JPEG, and I'm going to put it straight into my Photoshop Elements working folder. And it's given this screen here the name of DSC_95567 tone mapped. I'm going to do File, Save As, and it brings up this dialog box. Now by default I'm pointed at work in progress, so wherever you're working in. I want to put it into my work in progress folder. I want to call it a JPEG, save as type JPEG. It'll give it the file name showing that it has been tone mapped from these three images out of an HDR file. And down here you can often you can elect which packages you want or application you want. So I don't have the full Photoshop CS package, I use Elements, so I always open my saved image in Element 7 and I click Save, and in a moment up to the screen should come the JPEG. And here it is. And I will work further on it here now in the next set of individual presentations to cure the things that are wrong, to sharpen it up a bit and get rid of these edges which haven't quite overlapped properly. These three shots were not on a tripod, they were taken manually. So that's the end of this part of the demonstration, and the next section I will show you how I move it through various filters, particularly Topaz Adjust, and then how I would finish off